So welcome to the 12-week planning party. Like I said, this is really just me sharing this book. And so I want to talk about what we're going to get into tonight. So tonight's agenda, we'll talk like, what's the 12-week year? What even is this? Then we'll talk about vision, goals, and lastly, action. So this is like, there's a lot more slides than just 4, but I promise I break it down in chunks so that it's all digestible. And if you have any questions, you can just type them in the chat and then I'll ask you to unmute so that we can talk. Because I really want this to be interactive as possible. I love doing Instagram lives, but like I had a feeling I would love this even more because I can actually see you and hear you. So please don't be shy. We're all here kind of on the same journey and path. So it's all welcome. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and start with what's the 12-week year, right? So I post on Instagram 12-week planning, stories 12-week. What is that? So it's actually a book and it's a system that I want to share with you. So this is the book on the left here. I actually have it on my Kindle, so I just read it there. But what I wanted to do, I was like, okay, well, I want to share this book with them. Like I can tell them, go get this book, right? Go buy this book. It's amazing. But probably not all of them would buy it. And then probably not all of them would read it all the way. So then I was like, okay, well, what if I just turn this kind of into this presentation, which is what I've done. And thank you all so much again for your feedback of telling me to do this because I asked you yesterday and a lot of you were like, yes. So the 12-week year is based on the idea that a year is too long for us to set a goal and we need urgency to complete our goals. So how many of you have ever set like a New Year's resolution and then in like February or like March you're like haven't even done that, right? I've totally done that. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So maybe if you can't hear, just go ahead and you might have to connect your audio. But the idea with the 12, okay, cool. So most of us can't, so I think it might just be your audio, but let me know if that doesn't change. So the idea with the 12-week year though, right, is like, so you shorten a year into 12 weeks. So that every single week is kind of like a month. And every single day is kind of like a week, if you think of it that way. So you're kind of shortening the time frames that you have to get things done. And that makes you go towards your goals like with much more urgency, because no longer are you like, okay, at the end of the year, I'm going to launch my business. Now you're like, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to launch my business, which means by week 3, I need to have, this, that, and the other done. So that's the whole idea with the 12-week year. And this guy's name's Brian Moran. And it's so kind of annoying and also kind of funny to me that like all the books that I read are books written by white guys. So that's part of the reason why I created Girlpreneur Essentials, is because I'm like, okay, there just has to be more female mentors in this space, especially of color, that are like writing these books. So hopefully in a couple of years, you'll be reading one of my books. But for now, we're just going to talk about Brian's book. He's an amazing guy, and he's helped like so many corporate CEOs kind of lead their teams more effectively and all this stuff. But this is all based on Brian's book, The 12-Week Year. Alrighty, so this is a quote from him where he says, the fact is every week counts, every moment counts. We need to be conscious of the reality that execution happens daily and weekly, not monthly or quarterly. So for me, I'm someone who like, if I have a deadline like a week or a month ahead, I'm like, okay, I'll wait till the day before, I'll get it done. Like that was always my kind of mindset in high school and college and everything. Like I was always like, diamonds are made under pressure. Like it's fine the night before, the day before, that's when I work best anyway, like all these things. So I would totally wait till the last second. And that's why when I read this book, I was like, oh my God, he just like gets me, because I need this, because I literally will wait till I absolutely have to get things done. And I'm sure as a lot of you can relate, like as a CEO, as the manager of a brand and a company, like everything rests on your shoulders, right? You don't necessarily have, like Tracy said, like I can totally relate, right? Like everything relies on us and it's on our shoulders, and we don't necessarily have like a teacher or a boss to be like, hey, did you get that homework done? Or hey, did you get that task done? Right? Like we're our own bosses. So thanks to Ryan, we can now talk about this more. I'm not sure it's drawing on the screen, but anyway. So how do we implement the 12-week year, right? What is this? What do we do? So the first thing that we do is we set a compelling vision for our future. And we'll get into all this stuff later. So don't worry about like trying to think about this stuff now, but basically we need a compelling future to keep us pushing forward when it gets difficult, because, you know, it's bound to get difficult. If you haven't hit a difficult point yet in your business, type in the chat. But if you have, then just raise your hand, you know, metaphorically or literally. But I have hit many difficult times in my business where if it wasn't for this larger goal that I had for myself, if it wasn't for this like larger kind of mission that I had, I would have probably quit by now, right? In One Now, yeah, like it's so relatable. And so we need a very, very compelling vision that we feel like we can achieve. And that vision is what's going to take us through the really dark times. Because I mean, entrepreneurship isn't always just beauty and fun and roses and time freedom, right? Like we all know, it's hard, it's really difficult. And that's what a compelling vision does for us, is that it keeps us in it to win it, basically, because we have something to like win it for. All right, so the second thing we do is I wrote 3 goals, but we're actually going to create just 1 goal tonight. But we're going to create 1 goal that actually aligns with our vision. And the whole 12-week plan will be based off of this 1 goal. And now I wrote 3 because that's the max amount that he recommends. He says not to have more than 3 goals. Because as you'll see a little bit later, the way that you break them down is very thorough. And so let's say you have like 10 goals. It's going to be really, really hard for you to hit all of those, or even get close to all of those. So 3 is like a comfortable number for you to reach towards, but ideally 1. You just like, okay, 1, you know, I'm going to put my head down and focus on this 1 thing. But I'll just tell you that personally, I've set 3 for myself. So I've set 2 for Girlpreneur Essentials, and I've set 1 for my romantic relationship with Alejandro. So those are 3 of my goals, but you'll be able to see that later. You can apply any of these goals to any area of your life. But being all here, I know we're all here for business. So that's what the goals will mostly be centered around. But I want you to keep in mind that after this presentation, you can basically repeat the process with any other goal in your life. Alrighty. So the third thing we're going to do after we write the vision, after we write the 1 goal, then we're going to write out all the actions and the kind of like due dates. So we'll base our weekly plans and our daily plans around these like absolutely 100% necessary must do actions. And I'll totally give you examples of what that looks like later, but those are the 3 steps. So we first write the vision. 2, we write the goal. 3, we're going to write out the actions and the due dates. So by the end of this Zoom room tonight, you'll all have these 3 steps down. So welcome to the party. This is what we're going to be getting into. And I'm just super, super happy to be able to see your faces and have you all here with me. So thank you so much again. So let's begin, right? So I hope you have a notebook out, and later I'll ask you to get a planner, but I hope you have a notebook out. And I'd love to start with this quote. So this is a quote from Brian. He says, "Vision is the starting point of all high performance." So again, we talked about, you know, how necessary it is to have a vision, but this quote here, I think, really just summarizes the absolute necessary, like the necessity of it. So all high performers, I just think of like amazing people that I look up to, like Michelle Obama, and I also look up to Michael Jordan in a lot of ways. Like I watched that one basketball show, or like documentary on Netflix, and now I'm like, oh my God, Michael's a GOAT. I didn't really realize that before because I've never been into basketball. Anyway, but I think about the visions that Michael and the visions that Oprah and the visions like, people must have had to be able to perform so amazingly and perform so highly. So I want us to do the same thing. Alrighty, so you want to ask yourself, and you want to go ahead and write this down. What matters? What matters most important to me? What matters most importantly to me in the 5 areas? So physically, what matters most to you? Spiritually, what matters most to you? Mentally, what matters most? Financially, and personally. So I'll go ahead and give you some examples of what that looks like, just in case you're like, about any of those topics. And you'll be able to see them on the next slide as well. So here's just some really short sentences ones for me. So physically, ideally, I never get sick. So, that means I have to eat certain foods, I have to work out a certain way. Physically, I'm healthy and I'm strong. Spiritually, I feel safe and trusting of the universe. Mentally, I'm at peace, I'm confident and always in a state of abundance. Financially, I'm financially free and I don't worry about money and live off passive income. So of course, these are just all of my really short sentence, what I really want and what's most important. Personally, I live in my purpose every day and I'm surrounded by people that love me and themselves. So that's what I want you to kind of work towards. So now go ahead and ask yourself, and I'll give you some time. What matters most to you physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, and personally? And I know these are all kind of really big questions, so please take your time and really write out absolutely everything, as much as you can fit on your paper. And if any one of you wants to say anything or ask a question or anything like that, feel free. But I'll give you some time to do those because this is going to be the foundation for everything else. So go ahead and ask yourselves those questions. Yeah, Lexi.
I would say, even for me, physically, I'm getting older and I'm 35 now, and I feel different than when I was 25. So I would say physically, I just don't want to feel the changes of age, So I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but I definitely can feel it.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so, I'm like, what? 35? You're 30? That's amazing.
Thank you, girl.
So you don't look 35. So now your work, it sounds like you're working towards the I don't feel 35 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I'm going to try to remove these, let me see, little drawings. I don't know how I did that. But thank you for sharing. That makes so much sense. I know for me, physically, I don't really talk about this often on Girlpreneur Essentials because it's just not related. But physically, I never want to get sick, ever. And this past year, I haven't gotten sick at all. And prior years, I've gotten strep throat every single year, the flu almost twice a year. I would just always get sick and I'd always just be like, oh, it's just normal. And then I started learning a lot about lectins, which is just I could go on about that, but just I started eating a certain way. And I haven't gotten sick since. So for me, that's something that I'm really working towards, is that I never want to be sick again. So yeah, but someone asked me to go back to the example, so that's why. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Wearing masks help too. Yeah, right. But yeah, but this was prior COVID. It was oh my God, I would get strep throat every single year, and it was just the worst time. I don't know if anyone's ever had strep throat, but one time I actually got really bad. I had to go to the hospital. Is the vision short-term vision or long-term? So right now you're just kind of getting your ideas out. And then we'll go into the 5. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to go so quickly, but just go ahead and type in the chat done if you're kind of close to being done with all these 5 areas. Or if you're totally done. And then we'll move on to like some other questions that I want to ask you, just to like prompt you even a little bit further to kind of dig everything out. Um, yeah, but I really want to emphasize how important this stage is. Could I see the examples? Yeah, no problem. This stage is really important for us to get clear on like how do we want our lives to really look, right? Because I just sharing from a personal experience, and maybe a few of you can relate, but like I've set like business goals for myself, but I forget that, hey, I also want to be at peace, right? I don't always want to be stressed. I don't always want to this or that. Another thing is like, I want to be super successful in this business, that at some points I've neglected my personal relationships. And it's so much easier for me to do that because I'm living out of the country, like away from my family and friends. So it's easy to just go business, business, business all the time. And then I forget, like, oh yeah, I have a mom, right? Who maybe I should call her. So that's the reason why I want us to be like very start off with the vision, because we have to remember that we're more than just a business owner, right? We have all these other things in our life. Um, so now I hope, and you'll get the slides after this. So if you haven't quite gotten all of them done, don't worry. But now I just want to ask you some more questions. So I want to ask you this question. So I want you to write down the answer if you wouldn't mind. So what if your business was successful? What would life look like for you? Right? Go ahead and write this down on your notebook. But what would life look like if you had a loving relationship with a partner where you felt loved and secure? Right? Like what would that look like for you? What would life be like? How would your mornings be different? Or right? Like what would be different for you? And the third question, a third answer I want you to write down is, what if you lived in your purpose every single day? How, like, would that change the way that you showed up for yourself? If you have children, would that change the way you showed up for your children? Go ahead and take some time to answer these questions, and then just type done in the chat. But what would happen, right? So what would your life, how would it be different? Um, would you have more time? Would you have more confidence, more security? What would be different for you? Go ahead and take your time. Just let me know. Awesome. We have some done. Anybody want to share? Chantel, would you like to share? Devoni, would you like to share? You totally don't have to, but if you do, the mic is open. Cool. We'll get a few more dones, and then a couple more questions, but I think this, oh yeah, please share.
So what if business was successful? Let me close my chat window so I can see.
You're good.
What would life look like for me? I feel like it would look differently. First of all, putting everything in perspective on the previous window that you had up. Spiritually, I feel like that's first and foremost in my life. And I feel like if I devoted the right amount of time the way I should to that everything else would fall into succession, because I feel like everything comes under that.
Yeah.
My mental being, my physical being, there's scriptures in the Bible that support each one of those things. And so I feel like if I followed those precepts step by step, it would kind of align everything else for me. So my business would be successful. I wouldn't have to worry about anything. If I was in a loving relationship, I don't have a partner, but I'm saying if I was in a loving relationship, I would take more time. It would take more time away from me now that I have, but it would be in a good way, because I would be feeding my partner, boosting my partner, and my partner would be boosting me. So the attention that I would seek outside of my everyday you know, whoever I encounter on a daily basis, I would be getting that at home.
Yeah.
Encouragement, support, all of that. So living for my purpose every day. Wow, that would, which it goes back to just what I just said for all the other two.
Yeah.
It would definitely change the way I show up. Because I would know I know where my help, not I would know, but I do know where my help comes from.
Mhm.
And so I would move according to that, knowing that I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You know what I'm saying? All these scriptures come to mind. I
Mhm.
would just show up in a way that I'm not showing up now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that I think so many of us can relate to that. I know I definitely can. And thank you so much for sharing, because I mean that brought out so many things for me. And it's like I really loved what you said about like if I had that one kind of spiritual thing down, everything else would fall into place. And it seems like there'd be like less friction for you. Maybe you have friction now, but it seems like for you there would be frictionless. Like it would just flow. Everything would flow. Um, and that's really beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm. Well, I'm really, my goal then tonight has shifted a little bit, that after this Zoom party, we all have more flow in our lives. We all have more intention and we all have more ease, really. Because I think, yeah, that last question of like living in your purpose every day, I think that kind of shifts everything a little, right? Like, I know for me, when I was working in a restaurant and in college and walking dogs and, you know, partying and all that stuff, like I wasn't really living in my purpose. And I felt stressed a little bit about the future. I felt like, God, like, what am I going to do after I graduate? How am I going to make money? Well, all this stuff. But now I mean, I do feel like I'm living in my purpose and I have a little bit more security of like things will just work out, like they'll just happen. Um, but definitely this 12-week plan has helped me more with that. So thank you so, so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. And let me know. Okay, so it seems that we have a lot of done. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next questions. But like I said, you'll get the slides. So if you miss anything, don't worry about it. But I also want you to ask yourselves a little bit in more detail. Don't leave anything out, right? So how much time freedom do you want? How much income do you want? How much love and how much health? So just in case you didn't cover any one of these, I really want you to be like, okay, you know, I want blah, 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 or the income I desire is this much, and I want this kind of love in my life, right? So go ahead and take some time to answer these questions and then just type done. One second, I'm gonna grab my water. All right. Love it. Nice. You can type how much income you want in the chat, how much love. You can type your answers if you feel like it. I'm curious. Lexi, I'm just seeing your mention on here and I love it because you're like, this is what it took me for me to finish my paper. And like, that's so what we're talking about, right? Is like having an urgent deadline of like, this is when you need to finish this episode. I love it. I'm glad that that got you going. If you don't mind me asking, what pushed you to move out of the country? Were you, yeah, so It was a little bit of a different reason for me. So I was living in San Francisco. I was going to school there, had my whole life there and everything. And when COVID happened, the restaurants shut down. And they were like San Francisco was like the first city to close. And the restaurants were the first thing to go. So it was like restaurants and like public events. So I worked right next to like the Opera House and kind of like the downtown area. And when my job closed, I was like, okay. Like I really wasn't taking COVID that seriously at that time. I had a roommate who was interning at the UCSF hospital, and she was like, in like January, she was like, guys, like we have the first COVID patient. And all my roommates were like, ha ha, like don't give COVID to us. Don't, watch out. And no one even thought it was going to be what it was. So when I lost my job and when classes went online, I was just like, oh my God, I've never had so much anxiety in my life. And I made the decision that I have to move. Like, there's no way I can stay in San Francisco. And I had no idea that they would give us the, I don't know if anyone else was on unemployment, type me in the chat, because it was a great time to be on unemployment when you got like you got $600 extra every week. So, but I didn't know that when COVID first happened. So I was like, I gotta go. And I called Alejandro, who some of you are familiar with, but I called him and I was like, hey, like, I don't know where I'm gonna go, but I just know I need to because I can't stay here and pay this insane rent. And so it was either I leave to like another country that's more affordable, or I stay at my mom's house, because I knew I couldn't stay in California, like just not having a job. And I was like, okay, well, I could either stay in my comfort zone, basically at my mom's, and I probably wouldn't get anything done. And I'd probably just, I'd be rent free, so I wouldn't have anything to work towards. Or I could move out of the country and really force myself to cut down on my living costs. I had some savings, thankfully, but I was like, that will force me to really like focus, and I'll like have to make something out of myself. And that's what I did. So thanks for asking, Isabella. But that's why I moved, so that I wasn't kind of just comfortable. And I talk about comfort sometimes on Girlpreneur Essentials, but that's what I really mean is like, if I wasn't uncomfortable, like who knows if we'd be here. So I'm really glad that we're here, though. I'm really glad that we've all made uncomfortable choices to be business owners, right? Like, it's not comfortable to have everything on your plate all the time. It's not comfortable to go on live like so many of you have, right? It's not comfortable to even put your ideas out into the world and have this kind of question of like, will people even care what I'm doing? Well, that's also uncomfortable. So congratulations to all of you, honestly, for doing that. And I think there's another, let's see. Okay, yes. Now someone said, are we doing short term? Or are we doing long term? So we're gonna do 3 more visions, and then I promise we'll get more closer to reality. But so now I want you to say, okay, well, in 5 years, I want my life to look like blank. Then I want you to say, in 10 years, I want my life to look like blank. And then in 15 years, I want my life to look like blank. Go ahead and take some time to do that. But now that you have all the ideas, right? Like I know we had some in the chat. I want abundance of all 3. I want abundance of love. I want abundance of this, right? So what does that look like for you in 5 years? Maybe are you in this amazing relationship with abundance of love? Do you go on dates every week with your partner? What does that look like for you? And I want you to kind of write it out, like kind of almost as if you wake up in the morning and blank, right? In 5 years, I wake up and I have a dog or something. That's definitely in my vision. But go ahead and take some time, 5, 10, and 15 years ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Devani. Thank you. I hope I'm saying your name right. But yeah, my mom lives in Sacramento. So I don't know if any of you know about Sacramento, but it's I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't know about Sacramento because not much happens there. But and thank you, Isabella. Yeah, I genuinely, I mean, Girlpreneur Essentials is totally part of my vision and my purpose. So it means so much to be able to see your faces like planning and thinking and stuff. But yeah, it is kind of hard, right? To be like, what do I want in 10 years? Like that seems like a really long time away, but I'll just share this personal experience in case anyone is kind of stuck. But when I was a kid, I always grew up knowing that I would go to college because I just thought it was the only way to get out of poverty and kind of like help my parents. I always saw my parents struggle financially, and like, Christmases were really tough. We never really had much. And as a kid, I was like, I'm going to go to college. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get it. Like, that was just, as a kid, that was just my only understanding of success. So when I was a kid, I would be like, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to have a degree. I'm going to have this so that I can blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that's, and I did go to college. I didn't graduate, but that's a different story. But just having that vision is like, that was something I was so certain of my whole life, is that I'm going to have this. I don't even know what I thought I was going to be able to do with a job, but I thought I would have one, and I thought I would just be like providing for my family and stuff. Which now it looks like a little different for me, but I'm just, I'm grateful and stuff. But and now I'm like, okay, in 5 years, I want this kind of stuff. But yeah. I love what Chantel said. She said, in 5 years, I definitely want to have my own house. I also want to be done with education. That's so, so, so in reach. Love that. Cool. Okay, so just go ahead and type. Oh, go ahead, Lexi. You have something?
I was just going to say that it's crazy to think about 5 years ago, where I just to think about where I was 5 years ago and where I am today. It's more of a material progressiveness and a comfortability. But now it's like I don't really care that much about that material stuff. Like, even when I think about my house and my husband's like, oh, we want a bigger house. I'm just like, for what? Maybe we can just travel the world and stay in nice houses, And it's like my mind is different. So it's just, that's why I'm like, it's so hard to think about where do I want to be in the next 5 years? Cause I'm just like, I just want to be able to wake up and be happy and explore the earth, because it's so big, and I want my kids to feel the exact same way. I just want to be able to wake up and then after those 5 years over with, then I feel like I want to teach other women and just pour out what I've learned and the happiness and things onto them, because it's no point of being on this earth if you can't help somebody. So it's like, that's why I'm like, what do I write?
Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like same for me. Even a year ago, I thought I wanted something so much different. Like I'm not even kidding. I had zero thought that I would be here with you all. And like, even having girlpreneurs and nothing, no. It was just, it's so weird. Thank you for sharing that experience, Lexi. I can just totally relate. And yeah, I also like the point you kind of brought up about like, I'm comfortable now as far as like material things. It seems like your soul is like doing a little bit more work of like this, I have this, it's like the human needs, right? It's like safety, love, food, shelter, all this stuff. And then you move up a little bit more of like, okay, now I want, peace and abundance. And it's like, well, how do I get peace and abundance if I can't even afford my rent? Like that's where I was last year. So now I'm in a little bit of a different space, but it's amazing to see that we're all on these journeys. A profitable business and homeowner, love it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go forward to this quote. So if you think something is possible, it is. right? So everything that you've just written down on your paper is possible because you thought about it. So just having the idea that something exists, it already exists, basically, right? There's another quote that I didn't include by Henry Ford, who says, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Something like that. But basically, if you say, I can't have this or I can have this, either way, you're right because you dictate your own thoughts. And a lot of people think that results come from your actions, but results actually come from your thoughts. So first you think something, then you act because you think that thing, and then it comes to fruition. So for example, like being a homeowner, right? Like first you think that it's possible for you to even own a home, then you go out and do the things that make it possible to own a home, and then boom, you own a home. But it traces back to the fact that you actually just thought that that thing was possible. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if that makes sense. Great. Perfect. All right. Love it. Okay. So now, based on your long-term visions, thoughts become things. Yes. Based on your long-term visions, based on what we all want, in all these 5 areas, based on all of that, what do you want to create over the next 3 years? Now, this is a little bit closer, right? 3 years is you can achieve a lot. So both personally and professionally, think about the 5, think about the 10, think about the 15. But now I want you to get very specific and be like, okay, in 3 years, this, that, and the other, right? But get really, really detailed. And I wrote this here, the more specific, the easier to visualize. The easier to visualize, the more likely you are to achieve it. So in 3 years, if you were to wave a magic wand and whatever you wrote came true, what do you want to write? Christina said, I decided to start living, eating healthier, and although I'm scared, I realize that it is my mindset that I have to change before even in my action. And the same goes for in my business. Yes. I love how this is on time too. Thank you for sharing that. I would never have known. Thank you. And yeah, we're talking about visions. So 5, 10, 15 years. And I'll give the slides to everyone after. But basically we're kind of the 12-week year. Oh, sorry, I'm summarizing. But the 12-week year, we're going to start off with the visions that we have. And then that's going to dictate the goals that we then set for this next 12 weeks. But that's what we're getting into right now. So the question right now is, what do you want to create over the next 3 years, personally and professionally? But I'm just going to go off what Christina said and just go ahead and type done in the chat whenever you get this question answered. But I'm going to go off of what Christina said and kind of share about similar to eating healthier and stuff. Like I grew up around such amazing food. Like my dad was an amazing cook. And I always had the idea that food is just for fun. Like I want to eat food because it tastes good, not because it treats my body right. And I'm Mexican. So Mexican food is like, oh my God, my dad just goes off in the kitchen. And I grew up and like I wasn't overweight or anything, but like I said, I'd always get sick. I'd always get some kind of colds, strep throats, whatever. And then like 2019, the end of 2019, start of 2020 is when I actually had to change my mindset of like how food is energy and all this stuff. But anyway, that's a little bit different. But I just wanted to share that idea of what Christina was saying is like, you have to change your mindset before your actions. I think that's so, so true. But yeah, go ahead and type done when you get your kind of 3-year vision done with. Nice. Beautiful. Is this helpful to everyone? Let me know. Let me know if I should slow down, if I should speed up. Yay. Okay, great. Love it. I like what Natasha said. I want to create a large online business presence for my daughter, Madeline's boutique. I want her to be able to have added many more products like she wants. That's amazing. Great. Okay, so we have some dones. Don't worry if you're not finished. I'll give a few more seconds and then we'll go forward. But great, I'm loving that this is helpful because honestly, reading this book, I was like, oh my God, like there are way too many pieces of content right now. Like I was writing down quotes left and right, and then yeah, just wanted to do this. So thank you so much for being here. 2020 was a year of awakening for me. Same. Type me in the chat if 2020 was like a huge slap in the face wake up call. I'm gonna type me. Oh my God. I'm woke. God. 2020 was, I mean, it was honestly though, it was amazing. I needed that so much. I needed to be like slapped around into a wake up call because like I talk about this sometimes, but like I was just so comfortable. I was so comfortable and just, you know, and almost every aspect of my life I was comfortable. And then 2020 was like, nope. Get out of your comfort zone, go do things, you know, go grow. Like a year ago, I was like, I would get nervous to speak in front of a class, like presentation. And now I'm like, you know, I feel so much more comfortable and all this stuff, but oh, it's just crazy. Oh, okay. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer session. So I just want to warn, I know it's kind of late for some of you, but I'm hoping to get the replay out, but it'll probably be like another hour and a half, or I don't know. It depends on how quickly you guys write. But yeah, if you have to go, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, Kate said I needed it too. I had a rough go before 2020 actually gave me the confidence to start Sugar Springs. That's amazing. Totally a blessing in disguise. Alrighty, that's amazing. Let's keep going. So now you have your vision for 3 years. And what I want you to do with all of these papers, ideally with the 3-year vision for sure, is that you keep the sheet of paper with you. So whether you have to print it out if it's on your laptop, or you have to tear out the paper because it's in your notebook, but I want you to read it every morning and every night and update it as necessary. So let's say you're like, maybe I actually don't want a dog, you know, dogs can be annoying and I have to train it, and all right, change, you know, make a new one, update it. But it's really important that you read this on a daily basis, because like I said before, like you have to be driven by what you're doing. And if you know, maybe you're like, God, I don't want to post 3 times a day. But then you're like, okay, well, if I want a successful business, then maybe I do have to keep, you know, so you need to just keep this with you so that it's constantly top of your mind. As soon as you wake up, you go to your vision. And then you actually start the day with a kind of a different energy. I'm honestly feeling emotional too, because it makes such a difference when you have intention, when you just move differently when you have intention, and when you're in a place of like, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is honestly what I want to do, right? Like, I'm not even kidding, but last year I wrote down, after COVID, and I was living in Mexico, I was having anxiety every single night. I literally had to like do breathing exercises to even be able to sleep. But I started writing down my intentions. So one of my intentions was like, I want to empower and inspire women to start their own businesses, to blah, blah, blah. Like, these were my literal intentions. And I would go to sleep every night and read them. I would wake up every night and read them. And Girlpreneur Essentials wasn't even a thing during those months. It came much later, but that was one of my intentions. And it really does come true. But yeah, emotions are very much welcome in these spaces. If any of you were on last week's live, you know that it was extremely emotional. So yeah. Oh, but the last thing is that I would encourage you to share your vision with someone close to you, someone that you trust, because it also kind of makes it more real. You're not just sharing it to yourself. You're not the only one that knows about it, but now you actually have someone who's like, oh, how's that business going? Or how's that love life going, right? So they just kind of hold you a little bit more accountable. All right. So now it's time for the goals. And I put it kind of goals because we'll focus on one for now. But maybe after this call, you can take some time to work out some other goals. But before we rate the goal, I want to share these ideas with you so that your goal, it should first and foremost align with your long-term vision, right? So if your vision is to be a homeowner, your goal has to align with that vision. If your goal is to have a successful business, it has to align, And then the other thing, it has to be measurable and specific. And I'll give you an example of this before I ask you to create your own. But measurable and specific. And then make sure your goal is also realistic and it's challenging enough. So realistic is like, I wouldn't make the goal for myself that I am a multi-millionaire in 3 months. That would just put way too much pressure on me. And it's not that realistic, right? Multi-millionaire, $2 million in 3 months, right? That's a little, just from my personal life and my personal finances, that's unrealistic to me. But something that's more, it's still challenging is like, okay, I want to make, 10,000 or 20,000, 15,000, 50, these kind of numbers are challenging and realistic. Make sense? So let me give you an example before I ask you to make your own. But one of my 12-week goals is to, a bad example would me just being like, I want a product listed on Amazon. A good example would be, I want to have the boxes that I've been creating with you all listed on Amazon and have sold 100 units by June 1st, right? So do you see how that aligns with my longer term vision of like being financially free and living my purpose? It's also measurable and specific, it's realistic, and it's also challenging enough. So that's that example right there again. And these goals have to be within 12 weeks? Yes. So now I want to ask you, what is one goal? Go ahead and ask yourself, what is one goal I want to achieve over the next 12 weeks? Here are the reminders. So just go ahead and write down one goal that aligns with your long-term vision, is measurable and specific, is realistic, and is also challenging enough. So take your time. I'm going to turn on my AC. It's really hot now. Take your time though. And just go ahead and type done. And you can also type it in the chat if you feel like sharing your goal, you can also type it in the chat. Ideally, yeah. So specific to your business, but you can honestly make it, if you don't even want to focus on, like, you can make it anything. I focus mine on business because I know that's what we all relate on and that we can all talk about. Yeah. Done. Cool. Love it. Consistency with content, growing my community on IG, and one sale day. Love that. So, okay, cool. So Tashia, I'm gonna ask you, like, what does consistency look like for you? Get really specific. So is it like, okay, by June 1st, I'm posting twice a day. I have this many followers on Instagram and I'm making one sale a day. So go ahead and like write out those specific, kind of something that you can measure basically. So at the end of June 1st, you're gonna want to be able to be like, okay, yes, I, have this amount of followers or this amount of thing, kind of like numbers to put the goal to. Cool. Anyone else want to share their 12-week goal? Christina says, I want my business to have made 10,000 and I want to be able to pay myself in order to have my business help me purchase my first car. That is so exciting. That's like super, super measurable, very specific, totally realistic, and it's also challenging enough. So great job, Christina. Yay. That's so exciting. Do you know what car you're going to get? Kate, I'm posting daily content that encourages followers to turn into customers. Love that. All right. Lexi, I want to make 10K per month by June 1st, selling digital products and conducting interview coaching webinars. Cool. All right, let's keep going. So hopefully you have your goal written down. Time to break down the goal. So by breakdown, I mean, what are all the actions you need to reach this goal? So in my example, right, I want to get a product listed on Amazon. Okay, so I need to find a vendor, I need to order samples, I need to do research, I need to make the listing, I need to market. I have to do all these things, right? So go ahead and write out like literally every action. So Lexi, what do you need to do to start selling digital products? Do you have them made already? Do you need to create more? When do you need to start marketing them? Kate, to you, it's like, okay, what do you need to learn more about marketing? Do you need to create a content strategy? What are these things that you have to do to achieve this goal? And then Christina, and be like, okay, so how many times do you have to post, or all this stuff. Basically, if someone were like, you have one piece of paper, fill it with everything that has to happen, write all those things. Like, I could write more examples of what I need to do to list a product on Amazon, but you want to write them all down, because you'll see that you'll see in the next question that this is where the kind of weekly and daily planning comes in. Christina said, I want to have something off the ground. Oh my God. So fun. Let me know if anyone has any questions. And then when you're done listing all the actions for this one goal, then just go ahead and type done. Or type one of the actions, actually. Type one of the actions. So I'll type. Nice. I need to learn marketing my products, build a brand, not just have a business. Love it. For sure, struggling with deleting the community June 1st. Hey, if that doesn't have to be your whatever works for you. It definitely doesn't have to be like anybody else's goal. Your goal could, not even be about business. It could be about the relationship you want to have with your loved one or anything. But don't think that your goal has to be similar to mine or anybody else's. Lexi, do you have a question?
Yeah, I did have a question. My question was gonna be like I feel like my actions are limited.
Tell me.
Like I wrote down create the ebook, which I did, market the ebook, which I'll never stop doing, create the platform, which I did that, create content based on it, go live more, do Facebook ads, get my website together, educate myself more on the topic, and hire a social media manager. But I know like half of them I already did.
Okay, so what about, since your goal is 10K a month, you want to be making 5K a month, then okay, how many sales do I need to make 10K a month? Then you can break that down. How many sales per week do I need to make per day? That way. And then you can also ask if any of those tasks haven't been completed, like what does it take to find a social media manager? Right? Do I need to start interviewing them? Do I need to give some of them a trial run? So those would all be like basically tasks under the other tasks. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Oops. Anyone else have any more questions? It seems like everyone has their actions written down though. Alrighty, so now that you have your actions written down, now it's time for you to write basically the due date. So by when do you need to complete each of these actions to reach your goal on time? Like a due date, think of it as that. So for me, in my example, I need to find a vendor by week 2. I need to order samples by week 2. I need to do research by week 4. I need to make a listing by week 8. And I need to market by week 9. So if I'll do all these things, and then here are the due dates, right? So my longer term goal is that I've made 100 sales on June 1st with a product that's listed on Amazon. So these are all the things I need to do to have that goal reached on time. Let me know if you have any questions. So basically it'd be like, by when do you need to launch a digital product, right? By what week? Kate, by what week do you need to plan out your posts? And maybe by what week do you want to have like a solid content strategy? Sierra, I would say like, how often are you going to post? Bethany, goals to try to find my audience. So yeah, I would get a little bit more specific. What's your larger goal in three 3 months, basically in 12 weeks? What's that larger goal? And then by when do you need to find your audience? So is it by week 1? Is it by week 2? By week 7? And then Morgan, I'd say like, okay, so by when do you need to like be a master of marketing or just knowledgeable, right? Go ahead and type done when you write down those due dates for all of the actions. Let's see, can everyone hear me? I was just being quiet. I hope you don't think you lost your audience. Is that good? Okay, cool. Yeah, take your time. The idea behind this is that you start to see it as like, okay, I don't have to do everything all at once. And also it gives you an idea of kind of what your weekly plan is going to be like. And we'll get into that. But yeah, it kind of breaks things down in chunks for you. And I'm sure you can even start to kind of see a vision in your head of like where you're going these next few weeks, because you're like, okay, by this date, I'll do this and that. Yeah, go ahead and type done whenever you finish. We'll get a couple dones and then we'll go. But yeah. Alrighty, I'll wait for 2 more dones and then we'll move to the next slide. Alrighty. So by now you have your vision for your life. You have your 15, your 10, your 5, as well as everything you want to create within the next 3. You also have the goal that you're going to focus on for the next 12 weeks. You have all of the actions that you need to take to complete that goal. And you also have the date, the week by when you're going to complete those goals. So now it's time to ask yourself, what will you struggle with? Kind of picture yourself doing these things and like what's going to be challenging for you. Go ahead and write what you're going to struggle with. For me, honestly, I'm going to struggle with self-discipline. I know that off the bat. I'm going to struggle with discipline. I'm going to struggle with, not going on my phone when I shouldn't. And then also you want to ask yourself, well, how am I going to overcome these struggles? So it's kind of like, so you're not so surprised when they happen. I'll be like, oh, I'm on my phone, right? I knew I would struggle with this. And I also knew that I should be putting my phone away. So let me go do that, right? So go ahead and type what you're going to struggle with in the chat when you're finished with both questions. So Kate, procrastination, that's so relatable. How will you overcome this, Kate? What's going to keep you from not procrastinating? Devani, how are you not going to watch too much TV? How are you going to overcome this struggle? Do you need to involve someone around you, right? Do you need to have someone else hold you accountable? Bye, Chantal. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry it's so late. Thanks for joining us, though. So, Tashia, how are you going to overcome creating content, the video content? And then Kate said she plans to set reminders on my phone and also leave sticky notes in places that will distract me. That's such a good idea. Love it. And then Sarah said balancing school, work, and my business in these first stages, launching and starting production. Yeah. The previous slide, yeah. So here's the previous slide. When do these goals need to be completed? Struggle with self-doubt. I will change my mindset by writing daily affirmations. Love that. Is it Mira or Myra? Said time management. She's going to plan and stick with the plan. And I have a question for you all at the end of this, so stay tuned. But it relates to it all. Bethany said, will the slides be available after the meeting? Yes. Yeah, you'll get a link to download via Dropbox. I struggle with time management. I can overcome this. Bye, and you're doing more Zooms. That's a part of the question. Yeah, Bethany, no problem. Bye. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I'm gonna make the replay available. I'm not sure how, maybe through YouTube or Instagram. I'm not sure how yet, but yeah, the replay will be available. Alrighty. So now we ask ourselves, goals, dig a little deeper. Why is this goal important to you? Right? Why is it important to you, Lexi, that you make 10K a month? Why is that important? Go ahead and write that down. Natasha, why is it important to you that your daughter has more products available? Why is that important? And then Christina, why is it important to you to have made 10,000 in revenue? Why is it important for you to have your first car? After you answer that question, I want you to say what your life will look like if you do accomplish this goal. So if you're able to buy a car, what will life look like for you? Will you no longer have to ask someone for a ride? Will you be able to travel whenever you want? Lexi, if you have that 10K a month, what will you be able to do with that? Will you be able to invest? Then I want you to ask, how will your mental state be different if you achieve this goal? So will you be more relaxed? Will you feel maybe more confident in yourself that you achieved a goal that you set and you stuck to the plan? Would you feel proud? Would you feel scared? What would your mental be? What would your mental state be like? And then I also want you to answer, how will you celebrate if you achieve this goal? So what does celebration look like for you? For me, I'm gonna get a puppy. I'm gonna get a puppy. That's the way that I'm gonna celebrate. That's like honestly a huge motivator for me too, getting a dog. But how are you gonna celebrate? And when you're done, just go ahead and answer any one of these questions when you're done with all of them in the chat. Where will the replay be available? So I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking YouTube. I'm thinking I want to make it available through YouTube. Let me know what would be best for you guys. Do you think it's something, I don't know, I don't really think I want to make people pay for the replay, but what should I do? YouTube is smart, cool. Christina said, I would feel more confident in pursuing my business as part of my sole income and also allowing my family to see my passion, although I will have just graduated from college. Nice. No, that's amazing, right? So this also will help you kind of visualize the end result, because 12 weeks, you might even be like, oh, that's kind of far away. But if you kind of have this visualization of what life looks like for you, it's a little bit easier, and it's also more motivating. Like for me, thinking of waking up to a puppy, I'm like, what do I got to do? Let me do it. Whatever I have to do to have a puppy, I'll go and do it. So that's another reason why we're writing down what our life will look like and how we're going to celebrate. And if you're having a hard time kind of answering these questions, maybe it's easier for you to answer what will happen to me if I don't accomplish these goals. That could be another way that you come at it, right? Like if I don't make 10K, well, then, I'll feel bad about myself, or I won't be able to blank, or I'll still be depending on this job, or, whatever that is for you. That might be another way that you answer it. What happens if I don't achieve this, right? Nice. I will celebrate by purchasing one item from Tiffany's. Which item? go find that picture of the one that you're gonna buy and print it out, put it next to you. That's what I would. I'm gonna find a picture of a puppy soon. I'm thinking a chow chow. Does anyone know what a chow chow looks like? They're so cute. Hold on. Let me show you what a chow chow looks like. They're so cute. They're like kind of ugly, but they're like little bears. It's a puppy. Yes. I really want a chow chow. Either I don't know, I'm not really sure yet, but I have to figure it out soon so that I can like really start to visualize it. Kate said life would flow more rather than being stuck most of the time. I've noticed my business has hit a plateau in sales and hoping to change that. Love it. Lexi said I want to celebrate by putting my job in June with a puppy. Oh my God, that's so motivating. I'm not sure which is more motivating, the quitting the job or the puppy. Like that's tough. That's honestly so tough. Oh yeah, chow chows are cute. I saw one in when we were living in Mexico City, and we got to like hold her, and it was like literally heartbreaking to put her down and be like, we can't have her. But that's been like such a good motivator because like I got a taste of what it was like, and now I'm like, oh my God, like I want to cuddle with this animal every single night. So that's really motivating for me. Alrighty, so I'll let one more girlpreneur share. When you're done, just go ahead and type what you'll struggle with and how you'll overcome it. And that means that you're done. Okay. Alrighty, cool. We have one more. So my mental state will be different. If I achieve a goal, I can relax because the hard part is over. I can also be more confident. My depression will be less of a problem. That's amazing. That is huge. Alrighty. So let's go on. And I want you to take a picture of this and post it on Instagram, your story, and say on June 1st, 2021, I'm committed to, and type out your goal. And you can also tag me if you want. But I really want you to do this because you're now saying you're committed. This is really, really big because if you keep it to yourself, it's really easy for you to be like, oh, But if you post about it and you say, I'm committed to this goal, now you have people. Yeah, exactly. You want to hold yourself accountable. So take some time, post this on Instagram, either your personal or your business page, but I'm going to refresh until everyone has tagged me. But good. Yes. Go ahead. So on June 1st, 2021, and type out what your 12-week goal is. I know, June, isn't that weird? That's 12 weeks. Another reason why that I loved, I wanted to do this today was that March 1st starts on a Monday, which kind of just like felt right. I don't know why. It's just like, this just feels right to do a 12-week plan right now. All right, you can type done in the chat when you've done it. Yes, Sugar Springs. Who else is making it public? I'll post mine too. Yes, Kate. I think I did see it. That's amazing. Just type it in the chat when you finish, just in case I don't see it. But this is an important step. Yes, I see it now. They're pouring in, yes. Beautiful. Love it. First Lady Lux, yay. Naturally Bougie Co. Ooh, got her 3 goals down. Girl, I see you. Yes, yes, yes. Put it in there. Put it out into the universe. Yes, yes, yes. It honestly makes it so much more real when you put it on your story because you're like, shit, now I have to do this. Beautiful. Okay. Jasmine, I'm excited too. I have a question that I'm going to ask you all soon, but that'll be at the end. Okay, so hopefully you've all posted. Hopefully you've all posted. I really encourage you to post though. I've seen that like 10 of you have or 9 of you have, so that's amazing. But definitely put that out there so that you're really not messing around. And then we'll move on. Okay. So now let's talk about your weekly plan. So your weekly plan is going to be based off the actions that are due during that week, right? So basically, here's an example. So this week's plan for me, week 1, it's to get price quotes from 20 vendors and order samples from the top 3. Next week's plan, week 2, will be to decide on a vendor. So your weekly plan, again, I'll just say it one more time. Now that you've written down all the actions that it takes, you've written down when they're due, now just pick out, okay, this one's due week 1, okay, this one's due week 2, this one's due week 3. That's going to be your weekly plan. That's going to be what you do on a weekly, to get those things done. So go ahead. What's due in week 1 for your goal? So type it in the chat and say, by March 7th, I will have blank. So for me, I'm going to type by March 7th, I will have ordered samples and gotten price quotes. Just based off the actions, right? And based off the due dates. Love it. Beautiful. Great. So now I'm sure you can kind of see that weekly plans are going to be easier for you to make, because now you see, great, okay, I'm moving towards this specific result. I'm moving towards this larger goal, and every week now I have something to do. And it's not everything, right? Those week 5, I don't have to start thinking about that action yet. It's just week 1. Then it's week 2. Then it's week 3. But it also takes some of the kind of overwhelming feelings that you might have, being like, oh my God, I have to make, this amount of sales. God, how am I going to do that? Well, now it's like, okay, well, if you complete this step and then that one and then that one, right? It's kind of just like a trail leading to a final destination. All right. So I see lots of commitments. I love that. All right. So now I want to share, and we're getting close to the end, but now I want to share with you daily plans and the idea of using time blocks. So time blocks are really, really helpful because it basically compartmentalizes everything for you. And I'll show you what I mean. There are 3 kinds of time blocks to work into your daily plan. So the first is strategic blocks. So strategic blocks are 3 hours long. They're uninterrupted and they're once a week. So in your whole week, find just one time to work for 3 hours, uninterrupted. You could also do, okay, I'm going to do 1 hour uninterrupted, 3 different days. You could do it that way. But this is a time for you to work on your business and not in your business. What do I mean by that? I mean, as the CEO, you have to be the one with the vision. You have to be the one holding your own self accountable. You need to be, this is also a time for you to strategize, for you to learn new things so that your business can move forward. It's a time for you to read books, watch courses, review your week's progress, review your yesterday's progress, right? Strategize, like I said, to make content. These are all things that are working on your business and not in your business. So let me know if that doesn't make sense, the idea of working on it and not in it. Let me know if you have any questions about that. But this is a strategic block. right? So this is, again, this will be uninterrupted, ideally 3 hours. And this is also the time that you're going to complete your weekly plan. So for me, I'll, in 3 hours, I'm going to get the price quotes, order the samples. That's when during these 3 hours is when I'll complete the due dates, basically, the weekly results. And just go ahead and give me a thumbs up or type "got it" in the chat when you got this information down. Cool. Kate's got it. Devani's got it. Jasmine, Maria, Shannon, Taylor's, Kiyomi, Morgan, you guys got it? Let me know. Gloria, you have any questions? Christina, let me know if you have questions. Sierra, is that your baby? He looks so cute. That's your baby in your picture. Nadine, let me know if you have any questions. Kiana, Shadana, anyone? Alrighty, cool. Got it. All right, the next one is buffer blocks. So buffer blocks are 30 minutes to 2 hours, once or twice a day. And this is the time for you to work in your business. So this is stuff like answering DMs, answering emails, engaging, making products, shipping products, scheduling content. Basically, you want to think like, okay, if I had employees, they'd be doing what the buffer blocks, like they'd be handling the buffer block tasks. Does that make sense? Right? Like you can hire someone to answer emails. You could hire someone to make your products. You can hire someone to schedule content, but you can't necessarily, you can hire a CEO, but you can't necessarily hire someone to read a book for you and strategize for your business. Does that kind of distinction make sense? Strategic blocks are what you need to do as the CEO. Buffer blocks are what you kind of need to do as like the employee of your business, basically. You can also think of it as like things that maintain the business. So buffer blocks keep the business running and keep it going, and strategic blocks bring the business forward and move it to different stages, right? Like learning about marketing would be in the strategic block. In the buffer block, it would be like posting the content physically, right? So go ahead and if some ideas come to your mind of like, oh, this is definitely going to be in the buffer block, go ahead and write that down because that'll help you later kind of write your daily plan. All right, and then just go ahead and type "got it" in the chat. Beautiful. Perfect. Okay, so the third kind is a breakout block. So a breakout block is 3 to 6 hours long. It's once a week and it's free time. So, of course you could have like breakout blocks every day, but with a breakout block at least once a week for more than 3 hours, you work on yourself as a person, right? As a woman, as a girl, as just a human, you work on yourself. So you either take yourself out on a date, you take a bath maybe, you watch your fave Netflix show. This is like something that you also need to schedule into your life, basically. So the idea with breakout blocks is like you want to remember those other areas of life that you want, right? The mental, the spiritual, the physical. Breakout blocks is where maybe you work on some of those other things, right? You want an amazing business, but you also want to be healthy. So during a breakout block, maybe you'll meal plan, right? Or maybe you'll do this or you'll do that, but it's basically free time away from this goal that you're working on. Because the last thing we would want is burnout or all that stuff. So Awesome. All right, so the 3 blocks: strategic, buffer, and breakout. So now that can really help you be like, okay, today, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., it's going to be a breakout block for me. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do my morning routine. Then I'm going to do 3-hour uninterrupted work. And literally, you could complete the week's task in those first 3 hours if you wanted. On like the first day, you could. You could also break it out in chunks. But the idea is that now you work around these blocks so that you're definitely getting things done towards your goal, and you're definitely maintaining your business, and you're definitely maintaining yourself, because we don't want to neglect like any aspect of our life, right? MP, don't worry, the replay will be available as well as the slides. All right, so now it's time to talk about accountability. Accountability is something that is really tough for me. Like I shared, this is kind of why I started reading this book in general, because I'm having a hard time holding myself accountable. And I think it's something that a lot of us can relate to. And I kind of wrote like, oh, actually first, let's talk about this. But Brian, the author, says chances of success are 7 times greater if you have peer support. And this is something that I've experienced my whole life, of like peer support. Like I've always had either, actual peers like classmates, or I used to have a friend that I would, every 2 weeks, we would call each other and be like, hey, did you accomplish the goals that you set? Like, so now here's where I almost have a question for you. But part of the challenge is that we don't have someone above us, like a boss, or next to us, like a teammate or an employee or someone, to make sure that we're getting things done. So now I want to ask you, what should we do? I need your thoughts either in the chat or you can voice them. But I've been thinking about doing like, so much for coming. Thank you so much for just being a part of the community in general. Thank you for all your feedback that you've been giving me. Like, I just really, really appreciate this. Like, you helped me so much. Like I said, I just genuinely feel like I'm living in my purpose, and it's thanks to you all. Like, it's thanks to you all that I'm able to do that. And I'm just genuinely like super happy to be able to share this space with you. It's like hard to put into words, but I'm so happy about it. So I'm 100% going to do something with this. We're 100% going to do something. I wanted it to be free because I genuinely just like want to see everyone like move forward, right? Like, I can give you all the strategy, I can give you all the tips, I can give you all the content, but it takes a plan to be able to implement it all. And I know that like after reading this book, I was like, damn, I feel like I'm going to do something. I need to share this with them, right? So I'm super, super happy that you all are able to come, and you're so, so welcome.